Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Nars Soft Matte Creamy Concealer. So let's get into it. This concealer retails for about $30. It comes in 16 shades. It has over 2,000 reviews on the Sephora website with a 4.5-star rating, so that's pretty good. This concealer is a matte formula, which eventually it does dry down matte, but it's creamy upon initial application. So I was interested in trying it. A couple of people had some polarizing reviews on the Sephora website. Some people loved it, some people hated it, naturally, like with anything on that website. But what's interesting is that some people claimed that it was overly dry and some people claimed that it caused creasing. A couple of key ingredients in this concealer that set it apart from other concealers on the market is that it has hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid can hold up to 1,000 times its weight in water, and it's also humectant. So humectants, as we know, suspend moisture in the superficial layer of the skin, creating a nice, plump, smooth, hydrated look. It has peptides, which nourish the skin and also reduce the appearance of fine lines. And it has antioxidants, and antioxidants are supposed to combat the signs of aging. Now, in terms of ingredients, you don't actually know if something has a clinical effective level in the concealer, but I can tell you that I've got it on now, and I do think that it does provide a blurring benefit. So with that being said, let's get into the application. So to start with the makeup today, we are going to begin to color correct. My under eyes look exceptionally dark today. I think I ate a lot of salt on the weekends and I just feel like I'm holding a lot of water. My skin just doesn't feel pretty, so we're going to take a little bit of our LA Girl Pro Conceal. You guys know the drill. We're placing this anywhere we feel has a gray cast or shadow, and we're going to sheer it out just to really neutralize any areas of discoloration that we have. Alright, for foundation, we're going to go in with our Dior Backstage Face and Body Foundation. This is in the color Warm Olive, and I have an entire tutorial and first impression on this. I'm going to link it here somewhere on the screen so you can click that. Adding a tiny bit, and we're going to pounce that over the areas that we color corrected so we're not moving that orange around too much. First neutralizing that, and then we'll go in and add a second layer. I have to wear a mask all day today, so I don't want to put a ton of makeup on this lower portion of my face, which I think really draws attention to how beautiful your under eyes are, because that's really all that shows. So we really want to make sure that we've got a good concealer. So I'm excited to try this Nars concealer today. It is insane that just like a little bit of foundation, although the under eyes are still not fully concealed, it makes you feel so much better. Just like a light layer. You don't need a full face. You don't need full coverage necessarily unless you want that, but even just this tiny amount, God, it helps me feel so much better. Also, I think in my sleep I like scratched my nose right here because I don't know where that came from, but I woke up with it this morning and I was like, there's a scratch on my face. Random. All right, now for the moment of truth. We are going to go with the Nars Soft Matte Complete Concealer, and this is in the color Biscuit, so it's in the medium dark range, and I love it because it has beautiful golden peach undertone, and I've scraped some out on a spatula here, so I'm just going to take a tiny bit of this. And I know that a lot of people use this to carve their brows out with, and a lot of people use this to spot conceal with. It's been really popular lately, and I know that there's a new Nars foundation that's come out, and in the PR package with the foundation, the company sent these. So we're just going to take a little bit. Now, I am such a full coverage concealer person, so I really love testing out products to see their longevity. And you can see that it's just going on really nicely, and it's very clay-like, so it's very easy to kind of sculpt this through that lower eye area where I do feel like I have a little bit of hyperpigmentation and a little bit of a dip. I'm just kind of like pressing and doing really light strokes like this just to sheer it out. That is exactly my skin tone, so it matches really nicely. I do feel like I wish I would have maybe got one shade lighter just because I really like to brighten this under eye area, but having this in your collection won't hurt either. I'm also going to take this and clean my brows up with it. Why is that the most satisfying part of any makeup routine though? Just watching someone like glide the brush. Oh my God, that is so, I live for that. Wow. Okay, initial thoughts as I'm sharing this out. It is very similar in formula to the MAC Studio Finish Concealer, which is a holy grail of mine. That has been my tried and true for concealing like stray hairs under the brow. And really it's just like a fail-proof concealer because you can sheer it out or you can build it up. So this Nars concealer feels very similar to that. It just feels a little bit more silky. So I can play with it a little bit more. It's not as mattifying as that MAC concealer, but it is still very mattifying, and it instantly like brightened up this eye. You can see the difference between this eye, which is just like bright and lifted, and then this eye, which has discoloration. Take a little bit more through the laugh lines. Oh yeah, like that. A little bit of this goes a very long way. I'm just kind of layering a little concealer on top of the areas that I have hyperpigmentation, and I'm working off the spatula. Take a little bit of my foundation brush and then just like kind of push that over the areas that I applied the concealer. Alright, so we've concealed the side of my face. You can tell that it immediately looks just like totally different and bright and neutralized, and I am experiencing a little creasing. So I saw some reviews online and some people complained that it creased and some people complained that it was overly dry and it dried out their under eye and they didn't like it under their eyes. So The reviews are polarizing, and I can tell you that I am experiencing a little bit of the creasing. But overall, it's very beautiful, very skin-like. And normally, like I told you, I go in with a cream concealer that is very, very, very bright. Typically not anywhere near my skin tone, but I end up blending it out to make it look like it works. This is dead on my skin tone. So if you are an NC45, the color Biscuit is going to work for you. That's exactly what I have on here, and it is my exact skin tone. So I'm going to pop this concealer on this eye, and we'll be back to finish off the makeup, and then we'll do a wear test to see how this lasts. Also, I live in Texas and it's so hot outside, and I'm also going to wear it to the gym, so that's going to be like a real wear test. So you guys, I'm so dumb. I did this eye for TikTok, and then I started powdering my face as I started to finish my makeup, and I realized that I was going to powder my face with you guys. Sorry. So all I did was take the Airbrush Flawless Finish face powder by Charlotte Tilbury in the shade 2, and I look up, I take quite a bit of powder. I look up so that I can really like wedge the brush between all of the creases and lines that I have underneath my eye, and it also sandwiches any type of creaminess or movement I have with that concealer and locks it in place. And then I took that same powder and I dusted it all over my face, which is not really standard on how I do my makeup, but I wanted to see if this would work with this concealer, because although this is a matte concealer, it is listed as a soft cream matte, meaning that it is matte and it will eventually it will eventually mattify, but at first it does have a little bit of movement and you've got to work quickly with it. So that is a little bit of a difference between the MAC concealer, is in that this isn't as hydrating as this. So we've mattified the face now. Let's go in and contour and W45, and I'm just taking a little bit of this powder with the Morphe M438 brush, and I love it because it's pointed. I'm just going to take that and then work it over the edges of the face, and I'm not being very strategic because this half of my face is literally going to be covered with a mask, but I also want to look cute for you guys, you know? And I'm just taking the sides of the brush, and I literally take the side and push it up against the bridge of my nose, and that's just how I've been creating my nose contour when I have to wear a mask, because I want it to look a little snatched, but I don't want it to have to like sit there and carve out my nose. And then whatever contour powder I'm using, or bronzer, whatever it is, I'm just taking that and roughly pushing it through the crease to define the bend in the eye. I'm going to take MAC NC50 powder, and this is my actual skin tone, and I'm just going to take a little bit of that and then push it over where that contour stops, just to bring it all together because it's looking a little patchy on this side. So initial thoughts on the concealer. It's beautiful. It is a gorgeous creamy formula, and I can totally see why people use it for spot treatment and to carve out their brows. I'm just used to a more mattifying concealer in a pot, so it took me a little bit to get used to it. Also, when I'm looking at my skin, it is my exact skin tone, and I kind of wished I would have grabbed two. I wished I would have grabbed one to like neutralize my skin tone and then one to brighten, because I really like a bright under eye, and for me it makes a really big difference if the under part of my eyes is lifted. But I don't want to overcrowd this area with other concealers and other powders, because I just want to see what this concealer does on its own. And if I were to take a Studio Fix powder like this, which is a foundation powder, and slap it on top of the under eye area, it would do a lot of the heavy lifting for this concealer. So for the sake of this, you know, wear test, we're just going to see what this does. For eyeshadow today, we're going to go in with the Huda Beauty Topaz Obsessions palette. All right, let's take a little Sephora brush, just a pointed crease brush, and we're going to quickly grab this color, which is like a beautiful orangey shade, and I'm just going to push this through the crease. This is not going to be pretty eye makeup. This is literally just like I've got to head out the door, drop off something at the hospital, but I want it to still be pretty. And I'm going to grab a little bit more of that shadow and then push it underneath the lower lash line. And I don't want to smoke out my lower lash line too much because I don't want it to cover the concealer. I want to see what the concealer looks like when we're done. Now I'm just going to grab a fluffy blending brush from Sephora, and this is the equivalent of like a MAC 224 brush right here, and I'm just taking this lighter mustard color, and I'm just going to buff that over where the orange stops and the crease starts. We don't have to use a brown transition shade because we already put our contour color there, so we're good. Listen, this is no strategic eye makeup right here. This is literally throwing on colors because we're just going to add some mascara and then be done. And for the inner corner highlight, we're going to grab this gorgeous gold color right here and then just take that through this inner tear duct. Give that a nice little pop. I'm taking a tiny bit of it through right here. All right, let's get on to mascara. Okay, you guys, I just tried a new mascara for this mascara video that I'm doing where I'm trying several of the top mascaras in the market to compare them. It took me so long to make it work, which I thought it was going to be really good and it's not. Okay, so I zoomed you guys in so that you could see my under eye area and you could take a look at how patchy or not patchy it is. With cream concealers, sometimes they can look really heavy, really cakey, and they could be overly drying. This one had polarizing results, like I mentioned before, where some people really liked it and some people thought it was overly drying. This is just with a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury powder on top of it, so I didn't add additional concealers, and I didn't set it with any setting spray, and I didn't use any foundation powders to set my face with it, and I didn't bake. I literally just a little bit of this pressed powder on top of it, and I actually like the way it looks. It's not too heavy, it's not too cakey, it's definitely not as bright as I normally go, but you know what, it's not bad, it works still. So I just wanted to get you guys in super close so you could see that. I'm gonna zoom you back out now. All right, for blush, we're gonna go in with the e.l.f. Always always cheeky shade. It's a beautiful peach coral shade. These are highly pigmented and a little bit of it goes a long way. And so I'm just gonna build this color up as we go because I don't want it to be overly pigmented. I feel like my last few videos have gone really heavy with the blush. So this one is not as pigmented as the Always Spicy and Always Rosy shade. This one's a little bit more on the chalky ash side, so just keep that in mind. Kind of surprised by that because I went crazy for the Always Spicy shade because I just was like so blown away by the pigment, but this is like taking me a while to build it up, and it's a lot more cool toned than I expected. So I think I'm gonna go in with a little bit of the Always Spicy on top of it just because I don't know if I love that. Yeah, let's infuse a little bit of that spicy into like where the cheekbone would sit. Yeah, that's just like we needed that. All right, and for this look I'm actually just gonna skip highlight. I know that that's probably disappointing because cheekbones are crying for something, but at the same time I'm just gonna wear a mask and I'm trying to minimize what's on my face. Also, one thing I will say is that like sometimes I'll do a concealer, like for example I did the wear test on this Kosas concealer, and sometimes I'll put a product on and I will just like crave setting it with powders. I'll crave like setting it with a spray because I can just tell you that it's going to move, but I don't feel that way with this. I don't feel like I need a setting spray. I don't feel like I need additional powders. Like I'm actually like okay with the way it feels, and it doesn't feel like it's, you know, moving all over my face. Now, that's nothing against this concealer. This is just a really, really dewy formula. I can tell you that this is definitely on the matte side. It's just on the full spectrum of mattes, it's a little creamy. For lips, I'm going to go in with the Morphe Taunt liquid lipstick, and I'm just going to throw some of that on, and then take my KKW Nude 3 liner right here and outline the edges. And then back in with a little more Taunt. I'm just going to use my finger to push the Taunt into that KKW liner. And I'm going to take a little bit more of my face powder in NC50. I feel like around my mouth it's looking a little cool tone. I'm just going to add a little bit more of a warmer powder and kind of push that through. All right, guys, we are done with the makeup. Let's zoom out. Hello. It is 3 something, so we're going to do an 8-hour wear test for the Nars concealer. And so it has now been about an hour since I've had this concealer on. And I didn't set it with any setting sprays either because I wanted to see how it does. And this is the concealer up close. You can see that it just looks like my skin. And actually, I instantly regretted not getting a lighter color, but after setting it with the Charlotte Tilbury powder, I'm actually okay with the skin color. Or the concealer color. I'm gonna throw on some scrubs and then we've got to head to the hospital. Okay, this is the makeup for, I guess at the 2-hour mark. I ate and I thought it would have creased right here and it didn't. And I just had a mask on for about an hour. And it's 100 degrees outside, so even just walking to and from my car, getting in the car, waiting for the AC to kick in and like fully cool down, I thought that a lot of the makeup would move around, and so far we are doing okay. So I'm gonna get ready for the gym and put it to the test with a sweaty workout. All right, guys, this is our 9-hour check-in. So I actually did not end up going to the gym, but I think that this concealer would have held up if I did because it is very long lasting. I did zoom you, my hair's so frizzy. I zoomed you guys in to see if this is creasing, if it's separating, and I have eaten meals. I worked on the computer for quite some time and it is just hot and humid here. So, you know, kind of doing stuff around the house. It definitely worked up a little bit of a sweat, but it wasn't a full workout. All of that to say that I do see a little separation right here. And that to me is nothing that I don't feel a powder can fix, and maybe changing up your primer. And that is not really my area of concern because I knew that that was going to have a little bit of wear and tear and abrasion from wearing a mask. But the under eye is what I'm the most concerned about. So looking at this, it is flawless. My mascara is flaking, but it is so pretty. It's so flawless. It hasn't creased. I don't feel like my hyperpigmentation is peeking through the concealer. It's not overly dry. It doesn't feel really dehydrated, and it's still intact. So let's zoom out and talk about our final thoughts. So our final thoughts with this concealer, it is very long wearing. It actually does live up to the hype. It is worth every penny. And although it is really creamy upon the first application, it does dry down matte. Like I said, I really didn't go in with a lot of loose powders to bake with or foundation powders like I normally do. I just went over the face with the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Airbrush finishing powder, and that was just enough. This survived the Texas heat. This survived wearing a mask, and it's been on for 9.5 hours at this point. So I honestly would highly recommend it, and I'm pretty shocked it took me this long to actually try this concealer. All right, you guys, and that concludes the Nars Soft Matte Complete Concealer review with a wear test. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll catch up with you guys next time. Bye.